This is Reality Dispatch by Jim Minns.
The boat took off from the port of Bristol at 3700 o'clock. Still cold, which was surprising for a Tuesday day. Tuesday days are mostly sunny, have been since I was birthed, the guide explained. Everyone was excited. A geological odyssey awaited, even if it meant being uncomfortable in the freezing water. The boat was several hundred years old but still managed to hold together. Manufactured items that still operated were a wonder since production had ceased. Tom looked over the side as the engine caused the white bubbles to froth at the sides. He had never seen manipulation of the elements before by the hand of his species and was enamored at the history of human ingenuity. If only he were born in another time, another era. The sound of the engine, its roar as it increased speed, had made him giddy. He remembered seeing an automobile in his youth. It didn't drive, though, hadn't for many hundreds of nano-years. Not far now, the guide told them. There were 8 of them, but only one air tank. They would have to take turns. The stones were about 25 meters down. The explorers were to be strapped with weights to their legs in order to bring their bodies down to the underwater site. They were to be given high propane torches to view the structure, then after 3 minutes they were to unbuckle the weights and refloat to the surface. I've had people die by taking too long to resurface. So, although I say you have 3 minutes of air, you really should just count to 10 and come up straight away, the guide explained. The boat slowed and the engine died down. They were positioned next to a floating structure with a long blown-out light. It has copper rust surrounding every inch. The old world used these, he said. They helped control the traffic of the boats. Lots of boats back then. Tom drew the short straw, which allowed him to wear the air tank first. The guide sealed the breather to his mouth and pulled the straps beyond tightness. Tom felt the air disappear completely and panicked. He couldn't breathe and his lungs were compressing from the force of the seal. He could hear the guide yell at the accomplice to turn on the gauges. Immediately, Tom felt the flow of air into the mask and began to pant rapidly. Just breathe it in calmly, lad, otherwise there will be none left for the rest of us. He slowed his breathing. Then he was patted on the back. Right, you're ready. He felt his body push backward overboard. He hadn't realized that the weights were already strapped to his legs. Once again, he panicked. He didn't take with him any of the promised lighting equipment, rendering the entire trip useless. In his bionic implant, he was fed information about the place. Stonehenge is a prehistoric megalithic structure. Its age is unknown, but most of the Old World scholars believed it was about 20,000 years old. This places them older than the site of the Pyramid of Giza. Before it was destroyed 600 years ago, this was a historical site just as famous. Although submerged these days, you will see the enormity of the structure and the sheer amazing building techniques of our ancestors, the Homo sapiens, who were able to build these 9-foot-tall constructions before the invention of the wheel. Tom's implant fed various internal images of the structure as it appeared on land. Most of this was taken from the archives of the former internet platform known as YouTube. This included various tourist visits along with news reports from crowds visiting during what the early humans called the solstice. The final image was of 2 men approaching the structure with orange smoke and pouring it over the sides of one of the major rocks. Tom thought this must have been some ancient ritual. The projected images ceased as Tom's feet touched the muddy earth. He felt flat and disappointed as he knew his trip down was a waste of time. That was until a light switched on above his head, a powerful projection. He had not realized his breathing apparatus was fitted with the ability to project powerful luminescence. In front of him was the superstructure, still standing and erect. It was surrounded by water and home to new and diverse aquatic life. Its purpose was unknown but may have been a tomb. Now it was a tomb itself. It was a dying echo of a world that had lost its voice and no one knew what it had said.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimminns.substack.com.